Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Okay, welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. I am Scott and I'm joined here with Rob. Rob, how you feeling?
Do you know what? I was saying last night that I'm looking forward to night 2, 1 and 2. I will get more sleep. And do you know what? I feel like I got less sleep than I did if I watched the whole lot of the show.
I told you it was I think that's what we're going to do. They're going to creep into having long 2 nights. And again, the argument for the 2 nights is kind of that, you know, it's a bit easier, a bit more palatable.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be going forward. But hey, with that in mind, let's not be too down about it because it was a very, very good show, in my opinion.
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen my instant reaction I did last night. If anyone hasn't, go back and see that. It'll be my kind of first thoughts, basically, on what happened on the show last night. I did a little live one. So go check that out as well when you get a bit of time. But on that, I was basically saying that I feel like these manias never feel like they really kick off. You're always waiting for something, and that's because you know other matches are coming the next day. So it's a little bit difficult, I think, format-wise. But again, as far as the actual show goes and what happened on night 1, I thought it was very, very good. What about you?
Yeah, man, it was. I enjoyed it. Obviously, as we go down and break down the some of the matches and stuff like that, just for night 1, man, I really some things irritated me because they were so good, and other things irritated me because they weren't where what I wanted.
Why are you irritated by things being good?
I'll quickly jump in with one thing. Logan Paul has no right to be that looking that good in a ring.
We did think this last night, though, didn't we? You know, we did
yeah,
it could be the case. And thankfully, yeah, it was. I think for him and for the show in general, I think it worked out really, really well. Yeah. All right, well, let's get into it. Let's go match by match as we usually do on these things as well. For those that join us live and watch us on demand, definitely pop some comments below as well. We'd be happy to hear what you thought of the show. And again, keep in mind, we're going to be doing a lot more WrestleMania content over the weekend and going into Monday as well, even if we do get super tired. See, I'm tired because I'm on the normal time for the show, but, you know, traveling and going about all week. And you lot, I can't even imagine getting tucked up bed at 5 o'clock. I could barely make it last night when it was 12. So, yeah. But anyway, let's get into the show. So first off, no pre-show. Well, there was a pre-show, but there was no matches on the pre-show, which I think becomes a controversial topic as we get later on when we talk about timing and stuff. But let's go with how the show actually did start. So we did start off with the Usos versus Nakamura and Boogs. What did you think? What did you think of this one, mate?
Do you know, it was, if there was ever a way to start a show, it's, you know, to throw the Usos on first and, you know, they're going to deliver. Nakamura and Boogs were where they needed to be, done what they needed to do. The match itself was great. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, Usos picking up the win and your boy picking up a point as we start. Just so you know, not that I'm bragging, but I think I got every single prediction correct.
What? Really?
Oh, yeah.
Get into a bit out. We're not officially going to, even though obviously there are official things, we haven't officially tallied it up yet. We're going to try and do it for tomorrow's one, I guess, for suspense reasons, maybe. But yeah, obviously points are on the board, and we'll kind of mention that as we go along. But all right, okay. So with this one, Nakamura and Boogs. Firstly, I really like the fact they come out in matching attire as well. I thought that was really cool. Did they have some sort of sponsor? Because they went up to some guy and there was a video thing on a little video screen that they had on there. I didn't understand what's going on there.
I don't know, because I thought there's got to be a sponsor of some sort, purely because all the way around kind of scattered, you had the like the massive nameplates on LED kind of things of what's going on. That really weirded me out as well, you know. It just didn't sit right, because normally you have the like arena I guess rails, like seated rails, right? And then on the side where the the commentary was, there was like a WWE logo or something, and it just stood out. It was such an eyesore that every time we kind of went there, my eyes went there instead of the match. That was like a little.
The barriers were kind of good. The WrestleMania logo.
But, but it was. I think it stood out too much. They could have made it black, and then when they needed to show it for whatever presentation wise, then use them at LEDs. But
on entrance, isn't it? Yeah.
But but I don't know. I mean, because obviously they were rematching colors, which was lovely. I love seeing a tag team that are looking like a tag team and not just two random guys. You know, we've said that on numerous Talk on Beam podcasts, even and a podcast that we've done, you know, for the last 2 years. You know, so it's nice to see them like looking like an actual unit. What confused me though was as you said, they was with someone. So whether that was a sponsor, I have no idea. But it wasn't that neither of their logos, but it was in their colors. So I don't know if their color matched their sponsor or vice versa. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I brought it up, because I was like, are they like that? Like you say, to match a sponsor, or is that already what it's confusing? Anyway, as far as content and the match, so like you, I agree. I thought it was a really good match. There was a spot where one Uso was on the shoulder of Boogs and the other one jumped on to make it harder, and Boogs' knee went out and stuff like that. And I thought, wow, what a fantastic spot. And now I'm hearing that he might be injured. Is that from that?
I don't know, because I mean the build up was all, if you see the like the B-roll footage and the build up and on the promo packages and stuff, and it was one of the Usos like, well, if you can defeat me, you and Nakamura can have your match, and then he undone the tape and obviously his knee was fine. So I don't know if they're playing off of this knee being injured,
because I thought it was just a whole work the knee in the match.
That's what I thought.
Then I started seeing reports coming out that the match got changed, and which implies, you know, like that Boogs and Nakamura were going to win the titles, which I think would have been a bad decision long term. Although I think it would have been a good moment pop wise on the night for the babyfaces to start off like that. But so confusing. So there's a lot of stuff going around at the moment where you can't quite tell if this is legit or whatever. If it is, obviously, hopefully it gets better, because he's really kind of done some great work with Nakamura, getting himself kind of in a prominent role, bettering himself at guitar and things like that. So I think they've both worked it quite well together. And it would be a shame if he kind of now has to take an extended period of time off. But anyway, for this match in general, I thought he did really well. Nakamura did really well. And obviously the Usos as well. Like you say, starting out a show with an Usos match is always a good thing, because they really just bring that kind of explosive side and, you know, kicks off in a great way. And I thought this was the same. Although I was confused about the order in a lot of ways, because I did think a women's match should start. Because of the other women's match, you want to separate them as far as you can, surely. And with one not being the main event, as we'll get into later on, I thought, okay, so there really is tough to kind of keep them separate. But pacing was quite well in some ways, but then until we get to later on, but with some controversies. But anyway, we'll get there when we get there. Anything else you want to say about this match?
No, it was a good match, man. I really enjoyed it. You know, it done what it needed to do. It was a great way to open a show. As I said, you know, not that I've said it before, but I love the Usos. Not that you'd know that.
Oh yeah.
But you know, but yeah, man. Like, I mean, if you can put a New Day or Usos starting a show, you know full well it's gonna deliver, and it's gonna kick things off really well. So, you know, I think it was a great start.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're moving to the next match. Then we've got Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin, of course, with Madcap Moss. Now, thinking about it, I'm not sure if I even mentioned this last night on my instant reaction. I can't remember. I was very tired. But anyway, we'll talk about more in depth here either way. So even if I did say something, I'm about to say more anyway. Right, this match, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done as far as Madcap Moss doing the distracting, and Happy Corbin getting a bit annoyed at him. That seemed a bit, that was a bit out there. Obviously, we see a kick out of the deep six. Madcap then helps Happy Corbin escape a Claymore kick. There's an incredible flip to the outside by Drew McIntyre, completely unexpected. That worked really, really well. And then, a lot of work on the outside. Obviously, Madcap gets involved a bit as well. And then we get to the moment, Rob, probably my favorite moment of the night, simply because of the way I predicted it, where Drew McIntyre kicked out of the End of Days. Honestly, if you're going to see me, I celebrated it like Arsenal had won the Champions League. or England won the World Cup. I say that as I wear a Venezia shirt, but anyway, yeah, I was going mad. Or like like Austin's pop. I was very happy about that, especially because then Drew went on to win as well. Obviously, hit the Future Shock, which was really cool to see, and the Claymore and getting a win. And I thought it was a very, very cool match, and really enjoyable. What about you?
Yeah, the match itself was enjoyable. The dive over the, just a random. Do you know what? It had like a Taker-esque vibe to it. I don't know if that. Do you know when he used to fly over the top rope? So he'd only ever do it occasionally, especially at Mania. He's done a few. So it kind of reminded me of like a little nod to that, which is always nice to see. Madcap getting involved in doing the little things that he does really helps push, I guess, him and Corbin in that way of, you can tell they're the heels, and it's a good story outside the ring and builds Madcap as well. The only thing that irritated me, I'll willingly happily see people kick out of a deep six, right? Because it's not the finishing move of Corbin. But the end of days, that was such a protected move, and no one kicked out of it. All right, so now it's been kicked out of. Yeah, but all right, which is fine. Someone had to. It had to be kicked out of. But now, what is that marquee brand around Baron Corbin? Because it's either, unless he comes back with another solid move that's better than the end of days, he's now going to get lost, because there's one thing that he had going for him was a protected move, which is now which has now been kicked out of. So my worry is for Baron Corbin, or Happy Corbin, in that process of where now what.
Well, the thing is, I mean? You could look at it two ways, because number one, although it was a protected move and stuff, we got to be real. Baron Corbin has been a mid-carder for years, right?
Yeah.
So maybe getting that kind of thing away from him means he can now afford to go into the main event, where you can't just beat people all the time and be believable as someone that's just come from the mid-card. I think he's very talented. I think he could work a good program. He's been a great utility guy. He's changed up his character loads. I've really grown to like him. But maybe getting rid of that means it gives him the chance to go to the main event, where, of course, like someone like Seth Rollins will kick out of it on a Raw. But like, that's just the way it goes. Like, if you're in the main event, you can't always it won't be believable unless it'd be like a JBL thing out of nowhere, where it's like, wait a minute, 1 minute you're a hardcore champion and now you're WWE undisputed champion. So maybe it could be something like that. Maybe this is a chance for Corbin to go, because I get what you say. Because other than that, although he's been a solid mid-carder, that was something he did have going for him. So it is. I understand why you're worried about it. And the argument would be that a young up-and-comer should kind of be the one to kick out of it. But I think that'd be more so the case if we were talking about Corbin, if he was in that top tier already, if he was Seth Rollins, or
even like 5 years down the line and it's still a protected move.
And and again, it's been protected for quite a bit of time anyway. So I think it was a happy accident. That it was Happy Corbin, happy accident. It was kind of protected for so long, even though he weren't in the top tier of the show. And again, when I say that, that's not a slight on him as a performer. That is just, let's be real, where has he been on the card for about 3, 4, 5 years? So, I think it was a positive thing, and it was a good moment. And even though Drew, you could say, didn't need it, it was also a bit of a reward for the fact that Drew's kind of also slipped down the card a bit. It was a big moment for him. And obviously, speaking of big moments, straight after that, Drew McIntyre with Angela slicing through the ropes, which, as much as I've hated the sword stuff and thought it was so cheesy, like that, because every time I swing, you can see how blunt it is. It's not going to chop someone's head off, but they act like it will. The fact that they used it in a way to make it look like it was a real threat, because they at least cut the ropes, which I don't know how they pulled that stunt off, by the way, because I thought the ropes just snapped, kind of like how they do with when the rings collapse and stuff like that. Clearly trigger things that kind of whatever. But when they showed the replay, even in slow mo, it looked quite well. So well done. So I actually really enjoyed that moment. So for a match that I weren't that interested in, and for a sword I really laugh about and don't care about, boy, did they turn it around. So yeah,
they really did. Do you know what though? I was thinking, as you were talking about that, the deep six, and we were saying the end of days being protected. It was protected also during his NXT run. So thinking about it, he's been on the main roster for what, 5 years, something like that.
I mean, the fact it's been held that long is very strange.
That's something special. So yeah, I guess though, although someone did say, so there was a thing online with Corbin, I think before he became Happy Corbin, and he was saying about how protected the move is, and apparently he said he would rather have that move never be kicked out of than win a WWE Championship, and that be his legacy.
Wow.
So now he's had the move kicked out of, and he lost the match that he's got kicked out of. Is maybe he going up? Is he going to the?
He's earned his stripes. You got to say, why would he not be in the main event picture? He's done very well. He's been a great utility guy for him. So maybe that's what this is. Maybe it's his time to go up the ladder. I mean, they need it. Let's be honest. You know, the top tier, as crowded as it can get, it gets quite stale, and then they kind of end up having too many on one side, or there's an injury or whatever else. So it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, tonight's show was going to change a lot of things as well, but. We'll see. We've got a few comments here. Once again, Will, Ready Scoop, Ready. Thank you for joining us. Hi guys, how good was Mania? Halfway through the show, to the end. Amazing. Cody, OMG, I popped so much Stone Cold in a match first in 19 years. OMG, amazing. 9.5 out of 10. That is a big rating, but I see where you're coming from there. We'll get into our kind of overall thoughts, especially at some of those moments as we go on. Also adds here, love the stream. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thanks for joining us once again. And anyone else watching along live or on demand, another quick comment here as well about what we are talking about. I was shocked. Only wrestler ever to kick out of end of days. Wow, a lot of injuries at Mania. That's true. Rick Boogs, Becky kicked to the face. Her eye, Al got hurt. Yeah, Cody looked a bit beat up as well, didn't he? But yeah, we'll get to that later on. But yeah, again, end of days, incredible moment, really. And again, I kind of popped, if you will. Quite a bit, but mainly because it was a big moment, but obviously there's a lot riding it for me for the points. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. Anything else you got to say about this, mate, before we move on to the next?
No, I enjoyed it, man. It's crazy when you have back-to-back matches that really do like you have one match and you think, okay, how can you better that? Sometimes, because especially at WrestleMania, you have like a roller coaster of matches. You have a good one, have one that kind of dips a little, then it will really peak, then dip again, and it's just the way they run. But 2 back-to-back, that's
and even for star power, like usually they try and sandwich it, like I said earlier, big one early on. Not saying these matches weren't good, but they aren't exactly the biggest storylines going on at the moment. You know, They are like kind of BC storylines at the moment. So it felt like an old school booking as far as like how UFC and boxing is still booked, where there's an undercard which progressively gets bigger and bigger stars, you know. And look, I'm not saying Drew's not a big star. I mean, he was WWE champion, but the way they've been presented the past few months and these feuds have been presented, they're not exactly, you know, the high end of the card. So they usually try and bookend it, don't they? As we say, the Roman Reigns thing, they're going first or going last. So the fact they kind of built, as much as I say some of the kind of pacing is a bit confusing, it's confusing because it's not what we're used to these days. It was more of an old school kind of build. So quite an interesting way to do it. Maybe night 2 is going to be completely different. But sticking with night 1, though, we've of course got there we go. Graphics a bit happy there. We've got the Mysterios facing off against, as we named them last night, Los Miserables. Now, what did you think of this one, mate?
Man, firstly, the Mysterios jumping up like the old school Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Oh man, I love that moment. And then seeing Dominik in the Eddie styled attire.
I was just gonna say, because obviously the Mexican and the US flags, which is cool, you know, representing both sides of their kind of culture and stuff like that. But yeah, the American one is just like the one that Eddie wore in, was it ECW or WC?
Yeah, I think it was W. Yeah, I believe so.
The jacket and stuff like that. That's when he had the mullet and the moustache. It's a shame Dom didn't come out of one of them, but
man,
that combo. But yeah, what a great start. And seeing them both fly up as well was so cool. I wish they come out to Ray's old song just on that bit, but
yeah, that would have been good. But just seeing that bit alone and just like how happy Dominik looked, you know, and the smile on the Ray's face and that. Oh, it's so nice when you get there because it's such a wholesome moment. And you know, especially for things like WrestleMania, it's one of those things that you always need a WrestleMania moment. Now, bearing in mind, I think anyone that got the WrestleMania moment in this match is Logan Paul, right? But for Ray, his moment to literally pop out of the stage with his son and, you know, walk down the ring and all that and just perform in that match, the first father and sons do it, and, you know, properly like that in a proper match at Mania. It was, it was so nice. I felt like there were so many wholesome moments in this, like in the first half of Mania. It got me, I would say almost got me a bit teary. There was a few like distant ninjas cutting some onions.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned there, obviously Logan Paul was a big part of this match. Him as well coming out of his attire being similar to Miz, and we'll get to obviously what happens at the end of the match here in a bit. I really appreciate him having a Pokemon card around his neck. I thought that was hilarious.
I thought you like that.
I just thought like it is basically because that is just it's so it's rare and it costs so much money. You're basically being like, I don't need to wear like traditional jewelry. I'm gonna put this around my neck because it's worth so much money.
Such a heel move, isn't it?
It is such a heel move, like I thought it was really cool. The match itself, right? And Logan played it really well, especially being a heel. Doing the Three Amigos. I thought it'd be the typical heel can't pull off the third, it stops him because of disrespect, but he just straight up did it anyway. Then does a kip up, then does a fantastic frog splash as well. Yep. I mean, wow. I mean, we talked about Bad Bunny, Pat McAfee, obviously we'll be seeing him tonight as well, but wow. I think as much people got to give this guy credit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then do you know what though? People just can't be happy because how good he was in that match, and then he got hit with the skull crushing finale basically at the end by Miz, right? And people were moaning on Twitter, "Oh, he no-sold it." I was like, the guy had just done a match, probably one of the biggest things ever in his career or in his life, and all right, so he didn't lay down for an extra 2 or 3 seconds. Be happy, like what a performance from a guy that exactly. It's not from a wrestling or a pro wrestling background, But yeah, the attire.
He's caught up in the moment as well. He's got adrenaline. You're probably, how can you count in your head when you're not even used to the business? I've got to stay down. Let me feel it. 5 seconds. I'll slowly get to my feet. He's thinking my next spot is I've got to show him annoyed at the Miz. Yeah. And he knows Miz is on that ramp. And he's probably thinking I've got to get all my cues in. Then people got to be realistic about this stuff. Like, exactly. I didn't think it. Maybe if I watch it back, I might go, oh, we got up a bit quick. But yeah, again, I was so still fixated in it. And on the turn itself, I was so shocked by the turn.
Yeah, mate.
I've got a quick comment here as well. So glad Miz gave skull crushing finale to Logan Paul. So good. Did not see that coming. I didn't see it coming at all. I thought it was fantastic. I really did. And speaking of which, I mean, the match itself was great. The double 619, the frog splashes. Again, those wholesome moments. The basically Miz picks up the win. And then just turns on Logan Paul. And it was why I do not know. Do we go to WrestleMania? WrestleMania SummerSlam, is that what's happening? I could see that happening. Maybe. And again, this is a guy that I'd be happy to see in a ring again. But yeah, very very confusing.
Yeah, it was slightly confusing. I'll tell you what though, what was really nice is Logan got the skull crushing finale. So effectively, does that turn Miz face? Because if that's
look like a face, yeah. How do you go against Logan's a clear heel? Like, yeah, the celeb one. We said it last year. You kind of want him to be a babyface, but you got to be realistic with some of these people in the public. Like, as much as he's loved by, obviously, he's got a lot of fans and followers. In the first place, he rubs people the wrong way as well, and they played off of that really, really wisely last night and last year. So yeah, strange. I kind of feel like maybe the turn, although it was a great moment, it kind of took away. They could have just had all the headlines of the tag match and stuff like that, and that's what it was. And then if they are building SummerSlam, maybe in a few weeks' time when they keep acting like they're the best tag team in the world, everything seems cozy. Because that's why it was shocking, because it seemed like they were. Why would they not team up? It made like sense. Yeah. So for Miz to turn, if it is a face move or whatever, to do that on a random Raw in about 3 weeks' time, I feel or even on Raw after Mania.
Raw after Mania.
Yeah, that would have been a great moment as well. So. A bit of a shame in that sense, but again, that's because we don't know where this is going. It does feel like it's going somewhere though, so I'm happy.
I'm happy to take that. I mean, people can moan about Logan Paul as much as they want. I said this last night. Yes, 5-6 years ago, he was a pain. He was very hated online for YouTube, doing stupid videos and stuff like that. He was basically one of those that got attention because he could get attention. But he's grown up. He's matured. He does. He's more mature. He does his podcast. You see him last night. He performed. He didn't make the show all about him. Obviously, he was given them spots that he'd done. And anything that he was given, he delivered. He gave,
he wasn't exactly phoning it in, was it? He performed very well. So
and he's playing to the camera. I don't know what the who said or who produced that match, right? But when they had this moment where Logan looked at the camera and smiled. And it was like very heel Eddie Guerrero of, I will play up to the camera because I can. And then they zoomed out and then he looked again and winked. And I was like, I want to hate you, but the fact that you're doing such a good job as not being a pro wrestler makes me love how good you're doing.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed it, man. It was, I wouldn't say it was match of the night, but it was up there. It was, it was shocking. I was shocked by the performance of Logan. I think and it's weird, the fact that we're talking about the celebrity being one of the better people in the match, and when Rey Mysterio's in there, for crying out loud, it blows my mind. But yeah, man, I loved the match. It was so good.
Good. All right, quick another comment here as well from Will Ready Sport Ready. I did amazing in my predictions. Only got one wrong. Thought Mysterio's would win, so this is the one he actually got wrong. Apart from that, got all matches right. I'm usually all for picks. Right, yeah. Well, we'll get to ours later on, obviously, and tomorrow. But when we kind of add them all up. But yeah, it's interesting to see that you picked them all right, except for the one we're actually talking about now. I think it's probably a good time as well. Another comment here, obviously mentioning the match that did get scrapped. So also feel awful for New Day match scrapped and not a Mania now. Kofi was a bit upset on Twitter. Did you see that? I did see someone else kind of mentioned it as well. I can't remember.
Sheamus, he put just a pair of scissors.
Oh, scissors, yeah, being cut. So that was a real shame. Sure, there's another night. Surely they can fit him in, even if it's on the pre-show. Surely.
I was about to say, hey, look, we have 2 kickoff shows and 2 nights of Mania.
Yeah.
So although they were doing was just showing promo packages and talking, should have just thrown them on there. Like,
yeah, it was too much. I mean, and even after, like in the show, as much as I love the video productions and stuff like that, it was just, come on, guys, like throw this match on. So that was a very annoying thing. But hopefully we see it tonight. At least on a pre-show. That might feel like a downgrade, but surely if you feel like you've cut from the weekend and someone offers you the pre-show, you're going to take it. So we'll see what happens, and obviously join us later on for the build-up show, and we'll be covering that and obviously the recap and review of night 2 as well. Saying that, they start calling it WrestleMania Saturday and WrestleMania Sunday a lot more now, aren't they? They're moving away from the night 1, night 2 thing. So interesting, and it also got announced that next year will be 2 nights as well. So meh.
This is in Hollywood, isn't it?
It's next year the Hollywood one. Yeah, well, there you go. So we'll see. I'm sure there's big things in mind for it there as well. Right, okay, let's move on to a match that did actually happen next. And I believe that would have been the women's title match, SmackDown women's title match. Between, is it SmackDown?
Yeah, SmackDown. It's Raw. Raw, man.
It's Raw. There we go. They were both on SmackDown a few months ago, so that's why I'm confused. Becky Lynch, of course, versus Bianca Belair, and a failure to defend successfully, at least for Becky Lynch in this match. Now, obviously, we'll get to predictions as we go along, and tomorrow on tomorrow's kind of review as well of tonight's show, so that we can round it off for the year. Because if you don't know how we do it on this channel, we basically do a prediction table through the whole year, and I'm desperately trying to catch up after winning it last year and letting things slip this year. But we'll see how we go. The match though, the kind of then now forever, was it that one? Whatever they do these days, the signature basically at the beginning, but as Becky Lynch, I thought was really cool. And it just really adds into a character. And then sticking with entrances before we go into the match, a huge entrance for Bianca Belair as well.
Yeah, it's always nice to see people that you don't expect to get those entrances, get them entrances. I mean, I'm still waiting for a fantastic Randy Orton one. As a solo artist, because he's never really had. Do you remember? Like there was one he had that walk round ramp, and it looked like a massive snake was following him, and it didn't look like a snake.
It didn't look like a snake. No.
We'll keep it family friendly. But yeah, so it's always nice to see people get like those big entrances. You know, and Bianca, I think sometimes people can pull it off well, and it suits their character. Other times, you just need to walk down the ring, and that's it. But what great, fantastic entrance for Bianca is, and I think that was a build up to her being redeemed or redeeming.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was that story of, right, I'm coming with everything.
Yeah, so of course you're referring now to the SummerSlam upset, which I was furious about at the time, and as much as this, and we mentioned it a lot on the build-up show last night. If you haven't seen the build-up show, by the way, guys, go back and watch, because although we were predicting the event, we were kind of still talking about a lot of interesting topics as well. So it's still interesting to go back and view if you get a chance, and obviously join us for tonight's one. But yeah, we were saying how like this has kind of been stretched out a bit too far, maybe, but at the same time, as a match goes, great, and yeah, at least it kind of redeemed what that stupidness that happened at SummerSlam. But I also appreciate the fact that they taunted it, they risked it at the beginning, didn't they? You know, there's a huge manhandle Sam straight away, near fall, and obviously everybody got a little bit scared. So that was a good way to start it. Belair gets out of it. She gets a guillotine a little while later, though. Quite rough looking. We got the 450, which had a kick out. And then there was that accidental kind of 450 drop kick that Becky did as well. So that was interesting. The KOD, obviously, holding and thrown outside. There was just a lot going on in this match. Manhandle slam on the steps. And then in the end, there was that incredible like flip back out of the ropes, wasn't it, from Bianca to get out of what she was, the predicament she was in, hits the KOD, and then gets the 1, 2, 3. I mean, yeah, really good match. And again, as far as a feud that you go, do we really need to see it? I mean, when you get a match like this, is the payoff. Hey, all's well that ends well, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah. No, I agree. As you were saying, it did feel like a very long booking from SummerSlam, right? But I mean, yes, okay, Becky, she won at SummerSlam, and it does feel like a long time since then. You know, I mean, that was almost a year ago, right? But it's weird to think that things that it was weird to see things that they were doing in a match that we got to see when they come over to the UK, when you got to do the interviews for some of the guys and, you know, for the Rebellious Noise stuff. And there was little things that we see that I was like, oh, that's something that they done ages ago.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nice to see that you get to see the practice and where it kind of originated from, or an idea that sparked off of something else. But yeah, man, both of them delivered. This was the match where I wanted Becky to win, but point wise, I felt like Bianca was going to win. So I was like, it's time for Bianca to win it. Whether we get another thing of Becky trying to redeem herself, I don't know. Where we go from here.
Yeah.
But look, I'm happy to see it. Bianca finally gets her moment again. You know, back-to-back wins at WrestleMania. That's not something to be moaning about. The match delivered. Bianca didn't lose her hair, which was another good thing.
Yeah.
Becky's hairstyle looked cool.
It did, yeah. She's worked that quite well. So
yeah.
Did they go into unifying the titles? You know, that's who knows. Maybe that's where we go. Obviously, we talk about the other title later on, but and then obviously the men's title's getting unified. So, and I think if it does, then they really need to have like an intercontinental title for the women's division.
Women's, yeah. I think that's maybe the way they're gonna go.
It's already stacked, even with the 2 titles. I would suggest that because now I'm like, okay, who comes into the fold next? Oh, Sasha Banks. It's like, oh no, that's been done. But Sasha needs something to do. You know, like I know she's in a tag team at the moment, but that's been her and Bianca's kind of run its course at the moment as well. So. But then, you know, Sasha versus Becky, you go, oh, it needs a title. You know, that's the problem with these things. So they either need to have a secondary title or just get used to building up blood feuds that have nothing to do with titles. They really need to work on that because that's why the women's division feels like such a gulf. You know, it's cramped at the top and then loads of people that just never get a sniff. You know what I mean? Like the whole Liv Morgan kind of chasing for months and months. So, and obviously we've got more women coming in that are deserving of those spots now as well, like Rhea Ripley and stuff like that.
I think the safest way to do it, from my opinion anyway, is kind of taking a leaf out of Impact's book where you have like the X Division Championship, right? Because you can have an X Division match. You don't always have, you can have someone go against it, but then if quite a few people are getting in a shuffle, it's a good way to kind of just explode about 6 people onto a screen. You know, for one match, kind of how they do Chamber and stuff, but it doesn't need to be gimmick. The whole thing itself could be, it's a special attraction match. So it happens how Hell in a Cell used to be, right?
Right.
Or even Elimination Chamber, how that used to be. But it'd be perfect for the women because that's something extra they can go for. And if they're not the X Division, but let's say like the TV champion or something like that, it's a way to kind of build the next person in line for that championship. How the IC used to work. And then you get more people around it because they're not just getting lost in the shuffle of one championship, and that's only if the both titles are unified. So unify both the women's ones, bring in a secondary one, which would be the mid card, and you can have people going for the mid card and the women's one, and then there is a hierarchy of okay, this one's important, but to get to this one, you should be holding this one. I think it's easier to do it, but I think especially something like an X Division where you can throw quite a few women in that title match, it really builds because then it becomes a spectacle about people want to be in this match to get the title for this reason. You know?
I think even the way, and again, you know, you don't want to keep comparing other companies, but AEW, you know, how they've got the TBS title, like, it's, you know, and they're building that really well, but because of who's holding it and what's going on there. So, I think there's a lot they could and probably should do, but we'll see. going forward. Quickly on this match before we wrap up, a few comments here as well. The Becky and Bianca match was so good. Tyson Kidd is back at WWE booking the women matches at Mania. Been off for 2 months. Glad he's back. Well, yeah, I mean, it shows them. I mean, what a incredible match. He's a talent I've always really enjoyed, Tyson Kidd. So I'm so glad he's still involved in WWE and kind of helping that next generation, and especially with the women as well. Another comment here as well. Raw title, Bianca Becky. Great match. I thought Bianca might win because she lost in 28 seconds. So WWE made it up to her. She deserves it, and Bianca kept her long hair. Thank God. I thought that was going, as you just mentioned there as well, Rob. Yeah, it was a bit of a worry last night. And then also continue with the theme of the women. Lots of returns to challenge the title. Bailey, exactly, another big name. Alexa Bliss, Asuka. Everyone forgot about her. I think she's great. Lacey Evans, she looks great. Jacked and ready to go and pics on social media. That's a great point. There's a lot of people that definitely could go in that upper tier if they really want to shake it up. And it's just about what do you do with the people currently in that upper tier, stepping back, you know? So do you put them in a blood feud? Do you put them in a IC title type feud, you know? So we'll see where we go with that. And quickly before we move on, question here from Will Ready Sport Ready. What time tonight, Mania, 10 or 11 UK time, the kickoff show start? Do you know, guys? Okay, so I think the WWE's kickoff show starts at 11 p.m. We should be live on the build-up show, hopefully from about 9 p.m. as well. So obviously, card subject to change and all that good stuff. But keep subscribed to the channel and keep an eye here, because we'll try and do what we did last night, basically, of a bit of a build-up with predictions and fun kind of conversations and topics. And then obviously we'll be a little bit of a watch-along companion for you with the kickoff show if all things go well as well. And who knows, maybe we'll get a match this time with Kofi and Xavier getting to face Sheamus and Ridge Holland, accompanied by what's his name again? Brute or something?
Butch.
Butch, that's it.
Brute is named after an aftershave.
All right, let's move on. Right, okay, so we've next got the match with Seth Rollins, the magical wizard, as he looked like last night, versus the TBA. Now, I actually thought, and I mentioned this on last night's instant reaction, once again, if you haven't seen that yet, please go check that out after this one. If you want to hear my instant thoughts at the time, a tired but excited Scott will run you down the card. But yeah, as I mentioned on that last night, though, I did think it was potentially problematic if Vince come out and awkwardly stood there and went, Cody Rhodes, like he's done sometimes when other people return. It didn't quite fit that moment, and they did announce it like Vince was going to announce it. That's what I thought was going to happen. So I'm glad they didn't do that, and they kind of just went dark with it, and they turned on, well, they didn't turn on lights. They did the, what do you call it? Fireworks is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because we got a comment here as well saying about, hold on, where was it? I thought I saw a comment about it. One second. No. Oh, here we go. Right. Also, about 5 seconds before Cody came out, I thought the Fiend returned. I've seen a lot of people say the same thing. In the dark with the phone lights, did you guys? Yes, exactly that. So when the lights went out and the phones came on, I thought, well, actually, you couldn't help but think of Bray. But then I thought, but that's just natural reaction. That's what wrestling fans are going to do anyway. So, and some of them would have thought the same thing until those fireworks went off, and I thought Bray's not having fireworks, so it's not Bray. Yeah. And what I did think was there was kind of a meme going around about how much pyro Cody Rhodes was using in AEW. So yeah, that was at that point I thought it's got to be Cody. And I said last night that kind of little opening line on his song, which is surely, you know, it's a little bit of a dig at the McMahon family. That is one more than one, you know, Royal Family of Wrestling, whatever the line is. I was shocked they kept that in. But I'm so glad he had the theme song and he had all the Cody American Nightmare graphics. And you think we've never seen this Cody in WWE. This is what people got to remember. And we could go way deeper on what it means for AEW that he left. I think it's really confusing. But let's not do that here. That's a conversation for another day because we'll be here all day. So let's just simply talk about the moment and the match itself, in which case I thought both were absolutely fantastic. Possibly the best thing that will happen this entire WrestleMania, I think, was that combination of Cody's return and this incredible match.
Yeah. So for me, this was my match of the night. I think whoever had to follow this, to like for the rest of that night, like night 1, and whoever has to follow from night 2. Oh, that to be up there, I mean, that's a solid 9 for me. It's a 9 out of 10. There's always, I want to say 10 because there's always room for improvement on something. You know, and that's something my father-in-law always says. So yeah, which is, you know, very true. But man, what a moment! You know, the fireworks going off. The speaking of about there being there's more than one royalty family in wrestling.
Yeah.
Then Cody coming out. Oh, what just, and his face. It was just his face. He looked happy.
Yeah.
You know, and looking, I don't know if you see it, but he done an after match interview. When he
No, I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, so he got given his t-shirt, like his merch. I know, so I think he's got his dog on it and stuff like that, which is always nice. You know, literally Cody being Cody. But we literally got, I guess, I don't want to say an AEW version of Cody because he was doing this sort of stuff before AEW was a thing in Ring of Honor and Japan and all that sort of stuff, and he was kind of growing. But basically, he said 6 years ago he left with it was ready to go 1 foot out the door. He had to find himself and basically become who he needed to be, and now he's home. You know, and now he's back. And so I just thought, you know what, it's really strange, but you know what, that is so true. And just hearing the promo and seeing his face afterwards, you know, during the match and the promo after, with you know, after the match and stuff, he was like, he wanted to be there. There was something called him back, you know. So I don't like saying welcome home, but you know, I love seeing Cody. He kind of lost his way at the end of AEW. Not that we want to bring them into it, but obviously you can't help mention him without mentioning AEW. It's one of those things. But man, he looked comfortable. The chemistry between him and Seth was fantastic. Seth's face when Cody come out, what a picture. Oh,
yeah, he played it so well, didn't he?
The storytelling just on the face, emotional expressions was great. But the match itself, man, I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, it started slow, then really, really built. And I was like, do you know what? What a way to kind of really, because it was such a slow start. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like this. It's going to be one of those things. And then it really built, and then he went through, the pedigree happened, and you know, then we kicked out of the pedigree, and I was, man, I just didn't know what was going on. I was so emotional with what was going on and invested. It really took me on like a roller coaster of ride. So it was great.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I mean, it was like you say, a roller coaster, because first off, you start out with all the big kind of Cody's back, and the announce team did a great job of kind of putting it over, you know, repeating the undesirable to undeniable quote and stuff like that. Cody obviously shed some old skin, as I think Corey called it, or someone did when he did the Stardust taunt. And then, like you say, starts out a bit slow, then have that awkward suplex to the outside. Seth obviously saying welcome back to the big leagues, bitch, which I thought was hilarious. If also maybe slightly problematic for people who are AEW fans, but like myself. But hey, really enjoyable. There was that kind of sloppy moonsault thing that more, it was, I guess, like the Terry Funk moonsault that Cody did, which then also went into a bit of a kind of not sloppy, but kind of rough looking outside powerbomb as well. And then obviously we get a crossroads, and there is a kick out. Mentioned earlier on, a really protected move in Corbin's one, and then we look here and we've got like X amount of crossroads as we'll get into later on. But yeah, I thought it was a fantastic show. It was a fantastic showing, I should say, from these two guys. The way it ended as well, you know, it was going to be 3 crossroads, it felt like, and then he let go, and he didn't do it like straight away. We got like a proper full one, because as much as it was cool to lift up and that, they weren't as impactful and snappy because he was like lifting up and whatever. So I think the last one was really cool to do, a nice snappy one as well. But you mentioned the pedigree. Obviously there was a lot of teasers for that. Even Cody looked like he was going to do one, but when he eventually hooked the arms again, it was actually
that's like a double underhook powerbomb, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So it was like, he wasn't even going to do it anyway, it seems. Obviously Seth missed the Phoenix Splash like he does every single week, it seems, but it's always still fantastic to see. And also the Cody cutter as well, which was executed very well. I mean, these guys work so well together. I said on the Instant Reaction last night, I don't remember them working together before. I assume they did, even if it's a house show or as a tag match or something like that. But you know, they would have company together.
Do you know? So there was a moment, and I think this is what really hit it for me, because as you said, if you're not sure if you can remember, Cody and Dustin won the tag team championships off the Shield, and I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
it was Roman. I think it was Roman and Seth. because Dusty was outside the ring because he took his belt off
on Raw or something around there, wasn't it? Yeah, because that was the whole thing when Dusty came back, was with him, and and all that. Of course, yeah. But yeah, so different part of the card, a different thing, Stardust and all that. I thought they must have worked together, but it still felt like this was like something different anyway. You know, we're seeing them two work together as who they are now, like two of the best wrestlers in the world. Let's quickly go on some comments here as well about the Cody match. We've got first of all, thanks. I'll come on later. I loved the stream yesterday. It was cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us and everyone else that did and is now and hopefully will later as well. Thank you. OMG, how good was this match? 5-star. Well, lots of reasons. Cody, AW music, tribute to Dusty, Bionic Elbow. Yeah, I didn't even mention that. That was so good. Like probably the best Bionic Elbow I've seen Cody deliver as well. It was so smooth. The Crossroads. Glad Cody got his old AEW music so good. Did you see him give his belt? He wears around his tights to a little kitty on the way to the ring. Nice. Meltzer gave it 5 stars. Wow, that's good news there. Some comments were stupid in wrestling world. I thought they would be. Again, I ain't seeing much at the moment. AEW fans call him a traitor. He always took Mick out of WWE. Come on, I'm a massive Cody fan. I thought it was great. Stardust bit was funny. Yeah, I thought you had to acknowledge Stardust. Like I said last night, I thought they'd do the little intro or something like that. But yeah, I'm fine with it. So annoying wrestling fans, aren't they? Everyone got different opinions. Mine, Cody Rhodes is definitely great. Definitely not mid-carder like a lot of wrestling fans said last night. KO could face him and Bobby as well. Yeah, true. I wonder where he goes. You know, the whole thing is, could he go into Roman? If he's the one that beats Roman, that seems unrealistic because I feel like the Roman thing is built for a reason. But then again, we said that about other things and they turned out to be kind of done on the fly, like Brock Lesnar winning as well. So maybe not. But yeah, saying that, there are other avenues you could go down, but now there's only one world title. It's tricky. So yeah, when does Roman lose it? I mean, Roman might lose it tonight. Who knows? But yeah, it's interesting. Maybe if Brock wins, I could see Cody and Brock. But yeah, we'll see where he goes. I wonder how long his contract is. Do you know any of that, Rob? I ain't heard anything.
No, man, I've not really heard much. You know, when it's obviously we knew that Cody had signed, but I guess signed. Yeah. Obviously we don't know until they appear. You know, it's one of those things. But no, but what Will Rally Sport Rally was saying was, you know, Cody getting, you know, literally being Cody, and I think that's what I like. The fact that they didn't just bring back dashing Cody Rhodes or
it's always good when they allow stuff like that. I know we didn't see a lot of broken Matt, but that was an example of you made something work elsewhere. We're going to let you try it here, or at least acknowledge it. Remember, you come out as the Hardy Boys first night, maybe, but they still did the delete and stuff like that. So, yeah, I agree. I think it was so good to see this version of Cody in WWE. I'm excited to see where it goes. And, going on Will Ready Sport Ready's comments there about the wrestling fans being a bit basically toxic and ridiculous. That's always the case. I don't understand. Like, and we say it every time we do an AEW review. Why can't you just enjoy both? Like, exactly. and criticize both. Both of them have problems. Definitely have problems. But there are good things about both of them. So
exactly. I mean, look, we always say I don't like comparing. There is things in AEW that I enjoy that don't happen in WWE and vice versa. But I mean, as Will Rally Sport Rally said yesterday, with the amount of that content's out there, we've got Impact, GCW, Major League Wrestling, you know, Ring of Honor, WWE, AEW. Why are fans being so toxic about one specific company when you don't have to be a company specific? There's so much to watch. Be grateful that we're in a position where we've got streaming live through like Fight or Peacock or Network if you're in the UK. You know, and we've got the ability to watch so much wrestling. Imagine when you were like 10, 11, when we had like the Attitude Era, the biggest show was WWE or it was WCW, but WWE or WWF at the time was the biggest company. There was nothing else. You had to tape trade or someone had to record it.
Japan, so man, never heard of that stuff.
It was so hard. And now we've got exactly. And we've got this ability to watch so much wrestling. Why is everyone so
enjoy it? Enjoy it. You can be annoyed. Like I've been annoyed about WWE tons over the past few years. I still moan about Undertaker's stupid farewell thing. You know, like they're you know, and we always we made the joke last night, that stupid pinfall that happened at NXT in your house. You know, like where was the conclusion for that? You know, or the answer for that. But
as a spectacle, we've got tons of wrestling and we get to enjoy it as wrestling fans. I don't care if you think there's a war between this company and this company. If that's what you think, then, you know, I would say go ahead and think it, but that just encourages them. Stop being toxic. We're supposed to be a wrestling community. enjoy it because
I mean,
we help that.
There's a conversation to be had. Like I said, this is not the place for it because it would be so long about Cody leaving and how that affects the landscape and why that's strange and why that's strange for WWE, why that's strange for AEW. What does that mean for this and that and that? But so there is a lot to talk about, but there's no need to. So I felt like, this would definitely brew up some terrible kind of takes as well, because there is a lot to actually talk about. But the simplest things, like someone signing with AEW makes people go bloody berserk, or someone, so whatever. Like, anyway, I enjoyed this moment, and I'm looking forward to watching AEW soon. And I'm looking forward to watching WWE again tonight. So it is what it is. Let's just enjoy it.
100%.
All right, let's quickly get to we'll move on to the next match. Really, where are we now? Hold on, we've got one more, haven't we? No.
Oh, two more.
We've got two more. We got one official match and then one that ended up being a match. So let's go with the official match that came next, which of course was Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. Yes, this was another good match as well. I thought they both performed quite well. What did you think?
Look, I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm glad Ronda wasn't victorious. Not that that's a stab at Ronda, but obviously I'm not the biggest fan. But I just think booking wise, okay, so she wins the title. What does she do? She goes away for a while. She ain't going to be on Raw for a bit, or she'll do the Raw after Mania, and she's gone for a bit. I think the person, or SmackDown even. But do you know what I mean? Like, you do a show and then you disappear. We don't want that. If we're trying to push and elevate the women's to be as credible as the men's division, you need someone there that's going to represent the brand. And as much as I hate to say the amount of title runs she's had, Charlotte Flair does that well. So the match, there was sloppy moments that I didn't enjoy, but overall the match wasn't too bad. I'm just glad that Charlotte walked out victorious, and I think if there was ever going to be someone to beat Ronda, I think the only person you could really see doing that, if it isn't Shayna Baszler, would be Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, like we said last night, that's the highlight package going on ESPN, and it's the superstar Charlotte beating the superstar Ronda and kind of turning some heads. So I agree with you there. I thought it was a good match. It wasn't as like eye-catching as some of the others, but I think it was a solid match. I think it probably fits more on maybe a different pay-per-view. Like if it was on a different pay-per-view, I think people would be ranting and raving about it a bit more, but because it's on a packed out Mania with incredible matches, it kind of slips down that kind of pecking order as far as what was impressive. But there was still really some interesting things as well. Like they really worked obviously with Ronda's style, working on the striking and the submissions and stuff like that, which I know can get boring, going from submission to some people, but at the same time, it can also work on the other side of that with creating suspense and tense moments and things like that, which I think it did quite well. And obviously with that comes the stakes. It's WrestleMania, it's a title match and stuff like that. So quite enjoyable. It would have been maybe more so if people weren't as indifferent. I think these are two people that a lot of people love or hate, or maybe love both or hate both.
Or love to hate.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of it weren't going to have that same kind of like Johnny Gargano type, I hope he doesn't tap feel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so but for what it was really good. They performed very, very well. They exploded into the barrier. They obviously had that controversial bit as well where Lil Nate counts to 3 and Charlotte gets the ropes and he says, well, I've done it wrong. Now, I don't think they should have done that. Pat McAfee said, more sports should do this, because that defeats the purpose of what they've had before, where they have made a mistake and gone, well, that's what it is. It's been given, can't take it back. So to have it taken back, I didn't really like. Because of other things in wrestling, kind of, where is this? But again, we've said it so many times on this podcast, how often do they just change the rules to fit how they want it to fit?
How they want it to fit,
the storyline, because they think we forget this stuff. So, and we don't, because we're wrestling nerds. So, like, whatever. It is what it is. What?
So speak for yourself.
Oh, look at you with your figures behind you.
Hey, I've got a fantastic Otis figure if you want it.
I don't. But it was a really good match. Charlotte landed outside really tough though. Yeah, like really badly on her back. Like I was concerned, and then straight away she did that, exploded into the barrier. And I was like, how do you, like, when you've hurt your back like that, how do you then pick someone up and throw them over your shoulders without getting a sharp pain? Like, just from normal life, if you've done something like that, you can move fast. And so if you just had that impact, it looked like a really, really rough landing. So Horrible.
Do you know what? It's funny because I see that and she landed hard, right? And I was like, oh. But it's funny because the other day I was bending over to pick something up and sneeze, and I thought I broke my back. So
Exactly. Now, could you imagine that? I bet if you picked up a water bottle and threw that, you'd be like, "Oh, that was risky."
Yeah.
But
I jump when the toaster goes. So.
To pick up Ronda Rousey and do that to her, like, whoa! Straight after what she'd just gone through, it was amazing. Now, obviously, we get towards the end. Ronda pushes Charlotte into Lil Nate, who conveniently turns it into a spear, which was hilarious. And then should get the free, but doesn't. Goes into she taps out straight away, doesn't she? Doesn't count, obviously, because the ref doesn't see it. And then she wins with a big boot, which I was very shocked by. What did you think of that?
I don't know, man. I just don't like when the referee gets assaulted in some way because
Twice. There's two controversial moments with the ref in one match.
Well, I just think, all right, if you're gonna do one, at least when, for example, if Brock does it and he does the F5, he swings the opponent round to hit the person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's very convenient to hit a spear, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I don't know. I don't like them little moments. I mean, if the ref gets kicked or punched or nudged or something, fine. But when they get hit in a specific way and you think, well, they could have avoided that.
It just shows that if Charlotte Flair is loading up a spear, she cannot stop. Or if she's running, she will spear something. So, like, she's like a ball, like the ref.
Imagine if there was nothing there, would she just keep going?
That's what I mean, until she hits something. That's what I think would have happened. Because otherwise she would have hit the ring post. But if not, she would have ran through the ropes, gone straight into a fan, So I feel like, maybe that's what's going on. Because other than that, it didn't make much sense. But it was a convenient little, like, visually it looked good, But it's kind of like the, what's that move where you're doing the corner? When they're, like you're holding their legs and you put them up, they fly and hit the corner. Why have I completely forgot what that is now?
I mean, you've described something that sounds
like if you're holding them like a Woods of Jericho, right?
Yeah.
And then you lean back and they like leap up to their feet and bounce their head onto the turnbuckle. What's that?
Oh, called? The slingshot.
Is that what it's called? Slingshot?
When they slingshot them over and why
am I forgetting that? I just said I was a wrestling nerd. Anyway, right. Let's move on to the last match. Actually, before we do a quick comment here as well, the ending was not good. I heard this a lot. No offense. How does Charlotte win with a big boot? OMG, it's Ronda Rousey, one of her finishes along with a figure 8 and natural selection. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was strange, the big boot, like we just mentioned, but you could argue that it puts strength in an old school move that should have got a pinfall 30 years ago anyway. So let's quickly jump on here as well. Another comment here about it. I've got to say, Ronda awful. Sorry, all for a promo is not good. Charlotte amazing in the arena. I'm not a Ronda fan, but women went to be last tonight apparently. Ronda wanted to leave. Not sure if true. Wow, I haven't heard any of that. Interesting though. And a quick one here, slightly off topic. Sorry, off topic. Did you see Tori Wilson at WrestleCon on YouTube? She looks like a 25-year-old. She doesn't age. Amazing. And glad Hacksaw was at WrestleCon after his health scare. Good stuff. Yeah, it's always good to see when these legends are kind of getting out and about, getting a payday around Mania, looking healthy, like he says, Tori Wilson, and also even more so Hacksaw Jim Duggan, like you say, after his health scare, to be able to get out there and make that dollar again is a nice thing.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Not that we shout out other podcasts, but obviously Jericho has one. But he was on there once, right? And they done the ho as they do. I don't know if you've heard it. And Hacksaw went. He goes, "It's always good to start the morning off with a good ho." And, and Jericho went, "Hello." I love that.
I don't think he understands it. I mean, he should do by now, really. Understand what that also means. Right, here we go. Right, so, quick comment on the big boot again. Remember when Charlotte did big boot to Ronda in a limo? That was good. Remember 3 years ago, guys. That's another point. Like 3 years ago, they've kind of drugged this feud back up. That again, I said so many times, Charlotte should never have been involved in the Mania match before. This should have been it, and I think people would appreciate this one more. It would have been more exciting because these two people haven't faced each other. But hey, that's not what they did. Anyway. Let's move on to that last segment, which then would eventually become a match like we thought it probably would. We had Stone Cold Steve Austin versus, and that is weird to say, Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. I mean, what the heck kind of world are we living in at the moment? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm so pleased. Firstly, KO comes out, cuts a great promo Austin comes out, and I loved how they played on, and the pop was incredible, of course. I loved how they played on, is he doubting himself, and he went to the back. And as soon as he started walking back, I was like, he's getting a quad bike. But I like how they at least played on it, Comes out in the quad bike, destroys the set before it even starts. And we know it's going to get to a fight eventually. And yeah, I just like the fact that Owens just went, you know what? The real reason I brought you here is for a match. And it's like, well, I could kind of see that with the knee braces. I think Austin knew that as well. And yeah, jumping on that quickly before we go into it, let's go into the kind of razzmatazz and all that before the match started. What did you think of that, the pop and Austin's gear?
Oh, man. So there was a thing that Jim Ross used to say, right, where if Austin's walking down to the ring and he's talking, whoever's going to be on the receiving end of the beating is, I feel for him. And Austin looked ready to go, and I don't know if it was the fact that he had his knee braces on that kind of gave it away that something may happen, because he's dropped stunners before about knee braces. But yeah, I just wasn't sure. But coming out, on the quad and destroying the set, it's classic Austin, isn't it? That as I said yesterday, if we got to see Austin do that stuff and not even have a match, we would have gone home happy.
Yeah.
So, the fact that we got a match out of it, and a solid match as well. I mean, the guy took bumps.
I was shocked. I mean, when he took the suplex on the concrete, I was like, "Are you sure, mate?" Yeah, I was really shocked by that. Obviously, he gets his own back later on the ramp, but that's not easy to pull off either. And again, we're talking about someone, potentially having a bad back in Charlotte after hitting that move on the outside and then having to pick Ronda up thrower. Austin's just got back into the game and he's having to pick up Kevin Owens. So, he's not going to be the lightest dude. And obviously, I know you help your opponent, you spring yourself and you jump and whatever. But still, I mean, the fact that Austin could pull that off, and yes, he was noticeably slower. He was noticeably kind of limping at times, but it's been 19 years. And the reason he left, because his body was in terrible condition. So the fact he could pull off what he did last night, is great. And again, like I mentioned, his attire, last night we were like, will he be in the trunks? Will he have the waistcoat? And I'm all right with what he did, because he had his kind of what would have been a street fight kind of gear back in the day, because, they released toys. I had a figure with Austin, how he looked last night, the Austin 316 shirt and the jeans and the braces. So, yeah, I thought that was really cool. And it made sense, because why would he wouldn't, because he laid down a challenge, so for him to come out in his vest wouldn't have made sense. So, and again, we've touched on it a lot more last night, but whether or not you consider this a match, because we kind of guessed this is how it would go down. I guess it is, but Austin was always kind of maybe hesitant to kind of commit to that. And maybe that's why it was all last minute and it would have just been what we saw, but less. But hey, it is what it is. But what we got out of the actual kind of the match itself was really fun. Again, I mentioned some of the biggest moments already. We knew we'd get the stomp in the mud hole. Austin's now doing it in a period where fans do feel like they have to count everything, and Austin kind of went along with it, because he did it slow till he got to about 7, and then he just went mad, stomped that mud hole in, walked it dry, as they say, and did another as well. And the fact he was drinking beer for the whole match, so it didn't feel like a proper match, but I think that probably gave him a bit of Superman strength, that kind of pushed him through, and you know what, the pain's not there, but
Yeah, there was it really threw me back to oh man, I can't remember the pay-per-view. Someone in the comments comment on the match, but it was Triple H versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm gonna say No Mercy, but I may be wrong. But Austin was drinking beer during the match. Right, in that one, it would hit Triple H over the head with like a beer canister barrel thing or like keg fit. Oh, mate, it was amazing. Well, that's
it. When you had these no holds bars thing, and you can do a completely different match with Austin.
Yeah, it's
he can do all these kind of like greatest hits on both sides. He didn't do the Lou Thesz press, did he? And I think that would have been maybe a risky one because of his knees.
Yeah.
But we got to see everything else, and it was confusing. Like we said last night, how can you make a segment the main event? It would have been better maybe to just call it what it was. But the moment itself was great. And obviously, poor old Byron Saxton at the end gets stunned and stuff like that. But obviously, cutting before that, obviously, Stone Cold picks up the victory with a stunner.
Yeah, but he also got stunned himself.
He got stunned himself, which was cool. And I like that Kevin Owens, because it's like, there's all these legendary reactions to the stun. The most well-known ones are The Rock flipping like a fish and Scott Hall bouncing back, like as if he's just been hitting like Street Fighter or something in slow-mo. But like, I thought Owens' one was really good. He did 2 different ones, really. The first one, he did it, and he always went to get back to his feet and fell back down. Like, so I thought that was really cool. It was like he was stunned, as he should be with the name.
It made it. It's weird. He made it. He oversold something, but made it believable at the same time.
Yeah, because you would be like, and there's a few times where we've seen stuff like that where someone tries to get back up or try, like they're disorientated, because again, that's a bit more believable. But yeah, really fun. Then obviously he hits another one on him afterwards anyway, and he reacts a different way for that, which was also quite cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Then his brother gets in a ring, and I'm sure the people in attendance must have been like, "What the hell's going on? Who's this guy?" But as he got in a ring, because he did look similar to him, and I saw it really quickly, and he had the hat on. I was like, "Oh, it's Austin." I was like, "Wait, how's Austin gonna hug Austin?"
I genuinely thought you were gonna go, "Is that Gilbert?" But yeah, no, it was a nice little moment. I think it was like this was Austin's unofficial retirement match.
Yeah, like you said last night, I had my first match in Dallas. I could have my last match in Dallas, so basically that's what's going to swing my decision. So yeah, like you say, like I think unlike the Shawn Michaels one, we'll always look at this in a different way of like, because he didn't say he was retiring with The Rock, and Rock will know he had his last proper match. It's cool. It was kind of like a boneyard match, wasn't it? You could say AJ had his last match, but then other than that, who was taking his last match before
that? Goldberg, Roman.
Anyway, moving on. So we've right, a few more comments here as well about this match. So we got OMG, this was amazing. KO versus Stone Cold. I thought quick chat, stun and bye-bye, not 15-minute match. So good. Old school Stone Cold. It was amazing. Yeah, I completely agree there. I thought it was great ending to Mania. Okay, is so good on mic, isn't he? He drank about 10 Steve Weisers during the match, yeah. And he didn't speak much, Stone Cold. Just let KO chat on the mic, didn't he? That pop when he said, "Do you want to see me face KO? Give me a hell yeah." Wow, what a pop, so loud. Yeah, this is one of the things where it makes you feel, because again, I was tempted to go this year, and I thought, when there was rumors about Austin being in a match, I was like, I have to be there. And I was gutted watching it last night when I weren't on that moment, just seeing how the crowd reacted and stuff like that. But you mentioned a good point there as well, that Kevin Owens did shine a lot. And I think it was Lance Storm wrote something on to the effect of, sometimes even when you lose, you win. And that's what happened with Kevin Owens there. Like, that was, as a fan growing up, obviously he's playing the whole you was my idol, but now I hate you type stuff, which you've kind of got to do. MJF done the same thing with Punk and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as a human being, what Owens got to experience there must have been incredible. What an honor, he must have been beaming, like smiling and trying to hide it as much as he could. And yeah, I mean, he performed great. From kind of years ago where he went backstage and got blanked by Vince McMahon at WrestleMania to now being the headliner with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, yeah, it's no wonder the man re-signed, Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I don't know. I think sometimes it's if you're in the presence of, let's say wrestling legends. I don't like using the word. I mean, legends gets thrown around very easily nowadays. People like Taker they earn that. But yeah, being around like proper wrestling legends, I guess, and then having an honor of taking a stunner and just taking a stunner alone, I think is something special, and it's an honor to take it, from someone like Austin.
Yeah, like Xavier did it a few years ago.
Or like being put in a figure 4 by Ric Flair, or being chopped by him. It's something that you want to have done to you.
Yeah.
But I think to be in a 15-minute match, or not even a 15-minute, like 30 minutes or whatever match with Austin, and literally be slapped around and it just, embrace all of it and just take it. And man, I think Owens was beaming so much on the inside, and I think for what he's done the last few years, the stuff with Roman when he, he's done so much. We always talk about how much Drew carried the company, and things like that over the pandemic era and stuff. But people, like, there's little people that were doing stuff that you didn't really get as highlighted as much. Kevin Owens is one of those. And I think not that this was his big payoff, but to main event basically WrestleMania with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Crazy.
As you said,
6 months ago.
Yeah, as you said, even when you lose, you're winning. And I think, do you know what? I'm so happy for KO in that moment. Like, I don't even think he would have wanted to win. Just being stunned by Austin is
like I say,
a moment.
Exactly.
But man, I enjoyed it. It delivered and done what it needed to do. And we all went home happy.
Exactly.
I mean, poor Byron Saxton, though.
Poor Byron Saxton again. All right, let's quickly get some comments before we get out of here. Once again, touching on Kevin Owens there. So we've got KO and Edge can do the best promo in WWE. Do you agree, guys? And both great on the mic, natural compared to everyone else on the roster. And you can tell I'm reading a script like a robot, not like KO or Edge. It is kind of tough these days with, you know, what you hear about how much they're allowed to kind of do what they want. You know, certain wrestlers are going to get a little bit of leeway. I'm sure Edge is one of them. Maybe not KO, who knows? But anyway, I like KO last night delivered kind of obvious promos. He said obvious things, cheap stuff in some ways, but sometimes that's what you need and that's what works. And his delivery and like sometimes the other stuff is just still hilarious and stuff like that. Touching on Edge as well, just a little bit there before we go on. But KO absolutely loving every minute of match with his idol when he grew up. Really happy for him, funny getting arrested by a Texas Rangers. Yeah, of course, completely forgot about that. Really funny seeing that. Obviously, touch on Edge there. We will be talking about Edge's match. Hopefully, well, later on tonight on the build-up show to his match with AJ Styles. Interesting what's going on with Edge at the moment, seeing that as he's basically a heel, and that all kind of flipped out of nowhere. And obviously, tomorrow we'll be back reviewing that match as well. So definitely check us out. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you for those that have joined us once again live and on demand. Pop comments below, give us a little like and all that good stuff. We really do appreciate it. Follow us at RN Pro Wrestling on Twitter and at Reb Noise on all social media for all Rebellious Noise stuff. We cover a lot more than pro wrestling, but of course this is our pro wrestling channel. Rob, you got anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, man, I'm probably going to have a nap. I'm not going to lie.
Good. Get energy back for the build-up show later on.
Of course.
And we'll be here. And once again, check out the instant reaction if you haven't already. Of course, we did have our build-up show for last night as well. Again, the show's obviously already happened, what we're predicting. But there's a lot of good conversation and good chat on there as well. Later on, we will be back, of course, for our night 2 build-up show, if all things go to plan, and then we'll be back tomorrow for a recap and review. But that's what you've been watching right now, the recap and review of night 1. WrestleMania Saturday, as they're branding it, and we really do appreciate you watching, and the comments and the likes and the shares and all that good stuff, and hopefully we'll see you on the next stream. All right, see you later, guys.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.